every day it's not the same as it was before. Every day it's growing, every day it's changing. It kind of captures how people are like that. We are different every day, even though we don't realize it. We are changing and we're adapting. And all of this change all results from this process of reflection. You're listening to The Little Podcast, the podcast where we reflect on different topics each week together. All episodes are aired on Unity FM 93.5 on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Their website is linked below if you'd like to tune in and be the first to hear new episodes each week. But of course, they will all also be available on my blog, www.littlemisszenblog.wordpress.com, as well as on all major podcast platforms. In this episode, I introduce myself and talk about what this series is all about and why I started it, my intentions and all that, and then I discuss the importance of reflection and why I think people should reflect more. So I hope you enjoy it. Inshallah, here it is. Salams guys, you're listening to The Little Podcast. I'm your host, Zaina, or my blog name is Little Miss Zen, and I'd like to welcome you to the very first episode of this series. Bismillah. Oh my god, this is crazy. I can't believe this idea is coming to life. I can't believe I'm really doing this. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm actually really excited for this new experience. It's going to be interesting, it's going to be new, a bit different. So first, a little bit about me. So I'm a second year uni student. I'm studying psychology and I like to spend my time blogging and basically just like writing anything that I can think of, really. I mean, those of you who know me know that my name used to be Little Miss Daydreamer because I used to daydream so much. I mean, I still do, to be honest. And I've kind of been blogging for a while now. All of these episodes will be available on there if you want to listen to it again or if you miss it. It's just a place where I can express myself in any way that I want, and that kind of brings me on to explaining why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place. So I kind of see this podcast as like being part of my blog. I mean, my blog itself is like a way that I can reflect and just express myself. And this podcast is kind of like an extension of that. It's like a different way that I can say what I want to say. And there's just so much to say. I mean, there's so much that I want to talk about with different people, and I just want to share it with everyone because I think there's loads of like important topics out there that we really need to reflect on. And I've gotten into podcasts recently and I've felt so much more open-minded after listening to them. They're just so thought-provoking and insightful, and I kind of want my podcast to be similar to that. So my intentions really is just to give some food for thought and just to have a really good time, inshallah. I'm just really hoping that it's beneficial, that it starts up conversations, open your mind up, and okay, I'm so cheesy, but basically you get the idea. So I called this podcast The Little Podcast because my name is Little Miss Zen, so Little Miss Zen, Little Podcast, and it's really just like little 45 minute reflections that are digestible about a range of different topics that are going to be covered, inshallah. From self-love to Islam and today's society, social media, mental health, and so on. And I know that most of these topics, of course, have been discussed before, but in my personal opinion, I believe that every conversation and every person is different, even if it's about the same topic. They bring a certain uniqueness to the table. So inshallah, I really hope that you do gain something useful out of this, because the people that I'm going to be bringing on as guests are new people that you may or may not have heard before. And inshallah, they're going to bring their amazing uniqueness to the table, inshallah. And I'm definitely going to be learning new things along the way with you guys as well. I mean, I've already, as I'm recording this, is actually the third or fourth episode that I'm recording at the moment. I've already recorded a few with some of the guests, and oh my gosh, it's been so amazing so far. I can't wait for you guys to hear them, inshallah. I hope you guys just find it as beneficial as I did. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it all and having just real conversations with everyone. But anyways, enough of that. Today's reflection is going to be on the topic of reflecting. Yeah, it's going to be reflecting on reflection. So I just wanted to start by kind of defining reflection. So I see it as a therapeutic process. It's how people grow and learn and become better versions of themselves every day. We're always changing as humans with every thought that we have. And that kind of like blows my mind. Like, just think of how many thoughts that you have a day and just imagine how much you change because of every single thought that you have. And like I said before, I'm a bit of a psychologist, so I'm doing about cognition and memory and that, and how the brain quite literally adapts and changes. It's called brain plasticity. It's truly incredible, mashallah. Like, the brain literally adapts to how you think and how you see the world. And that's kind of how I see reflection. It's a way for people to adapt and change. We always have to make decisions and deal with different situations all the time. And there's also like different ways of reflecting as well. One of my favorite ways is, like I said before, blogging. I mean, one of the most recent blogs that I've done, it's all about trials in life and how challenges that we go through are kind of like the experiences that we grow from the most. And I was listening to this YouTube series. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Honest Tea Talk. It's an amazing series by these 3 lovely sisters. Mashallah, they're so amazing. You got to go check them out. And they were talking about how kind of like the similar kind of topic of going through trials in life. And they were saying how they used this specific metaphor of how a seed has to break in order for the roots to grow and reach the surface, for the stalk to grow even taller, for the leaves to form, and eventually flowers. And that seed went from being a small little oval shape into something so beautiful. And if you just deep it for a second, throughout that whole process of that seed turning into a flower, every day it's not the same as it was before. Every day it's growing, every day it's changing. It's not ever going back on itself. It's never the same. If you take a picture of this flower growing, like every day, each picture would be different, is what I'm trying to say. And that just kind of just like, what's the word? It kind of captures how people are like that. We are different every day, even though we don't realize it. We are changing and we're adapting. And all of this change and all of these mistakes and situations that we go through, that Allah puts us through, and all the growth that happens from it, all results from this process of reflection. So yeah, I think that's just a really beautiful way of seeing the benefits of reflecting. And that's all just self-reflection. There's reflection in different forms as well. It's also important to reflect on the world around us and just really think about what Allah has given us. Like, I remember this one time I was walking home from school, and I think I just received like a bad test score or something, so like I was quite depressed. Like, my head was drooping and I wasn't smiling or anything. And I was just on my way walking to the train station, and I was going across the street, and there was one of the neighbours who was just out on the road. I think he was like watering his garden or something. And he just chuckled to himself and he said to me, "Chin up, hun, the sun is shining." And he just smiled. And I just thought that was so strange. Like, this random guy is telling me to chin up because the sun is shining. And, you know, I smiled back and I just carried on walking, and it made me realise how glum I probably looked for him to actually say that to me. But I did actually like take that on, and I did put my chin up, and for the rest of the time I noticed how bright and sunny everything was, because it was summer at the time, and I noticed how warm the air was, and I was smelling the pollen in the air. And even though that sounds all so airy-fairy, like, once you take things like that in and really reflect on the environment around you, it did actually put a smile on my face. Like, it's so crazy how much Allah has given us. There's so much beauty in this world. it shouldn't go unnoticed, but most of the time it does. I mean, we're just walking down the road on our phones with our heads down, scrolling through Instagram when all of this beauty is around us. Like, we really need to just change that about us. But also, I do have to mention, as much as it is good to reflect on the positive aspects of life, it's also good to reflect on the negative aspects, because part of this world is acknowledging that there is a shaitan, and that we are creatures of sin, and that we do need to always take every day as an opportunity to better ourselves. But we can only do that if we are aware of what we are doing, aka reflecting on our mistakes and moving past them. How can you avoid evil if you're not aware of it in the first place? If you don't protect yourself by reflecting on the fact that there is evil around you. So there is that kind of protective effect of reflection as well. And then there's the other kind of negative, which is reflecting on all of the devastation and suffering from people in the world. SubhanAllah, there is so much going on. I can't even begin to explain how devastating the world is. But we need to reflect on the fact that Allah lets different people be born into different, worlds, quite literally. Different countries have their own situations and their own trials, and we need to accept that this is all Allah's qadr, and just reflect on the importance of being grateful for what we have and always attributing it to Allah. And in my opinion, that's the most beneficial reason of why we should reflect, because it inevitably brings us closer to Him. Because when you reflect on basically anything and you attribute it back to Allah, because there is nothing but Him. I don't know about you guys, but for me, that ultimately helps my faith stay strong, and it makes my love for Allah grow, because He's given me so much, and it just makes me feel eternally grateful to Him. And I mean, that's just me, but it can be for you too. When you turn reflection into a spiritual thing, it's all the more beneficial. So inshallah, I'd like to end this episode with some final thoughts. And this is the thing that I'm going to try and do for every episode that I have. I'm going to reflect on a final thought that I want you guys to reflect on the most, basically. If that makes sense. Oh my gosh, if I have a coin for every time that I say the word reflect, I'd be so rich right now. But yeah, so my final thoughts about reflection would be, what did you learn today and how did you learn it? And I want to leave you with this, because if you can answer that, that means that you're being aware of the process of reflection. And awareness is a first step that will allow you to get better at reflection and really make use of this process. And if you can answer that question, then you're well on your way to becoming a self-reflecting expert. So yeah, that's kind of it for me for today. This episode is kind of shorter than most because it's just an introductory episode really. But I still hope you found it beneficial in some way, inshallah. I'm really excited for the rest of the series, and I hope you stick with me because there's some really brilliant guests I've got lined up, inshallah. And literally just forget me rambling on. If you're going to stay tuned, just at least stay tuned for those episodes because they're going to be amazing for sure, inshallah. So that's it from me for now, and inshallah I'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.